Looking to become the first side to win a league game here this season. Los Blancos unbeaten in their last 5 La Liga derbies and looking to extend that run this afternoon with another big performance in another big game. I'm Phil Kitchamalides, Alex Kirkland alongside me as we build up live here on Real Madrid TV to kick off in the Madrid derby. Images of the side arriving to the stadium. Alex, it is another big game. We had a Clásico in midweek in the Copa del Rey. We've got the Champions League returning next week on Wednesday when we go and face Ajax. So this is another really big test for this side.
Nothing quite like the Madrid derby, the biggest and best club derby in world football. You're right, Real Madrid's schedule at the moment is incredibly hectic, but that's the price you pay for being involved and being in the hunt for trophies in all these competitions. The fact they had that midweek Clásico in the Copa, while of course Atlético didn't have to play in midweek. The fact that Real Madrid have the Champions League game this coming week, while Atlético have got longer to wait before their game against Juventus. But that's why Real Madrid have the incredible squad that they've assembled. That's why Santi Solari has made 1 or 2 changes for the team from that Clásico in midweek. And what a big game this is. What a massive 3 points this would be for Real Madrid if they can go and get the win here.
3 points up for grabs for both sides, but more than that, isn't it? Because it is a Madrid derby and there is the famous bragging rights up for grabs as well. So it is a big game for both sides.
Yeah, it's absolutely massive. It really is. I mean, the coverage, of course, here in the Spanish capital, in all the papers the last few days, it's been all about the Madrid derby, day after day after day of build-up, of analysis. At times it feels like the only thing that anybody is talking about. And let's face it, it's not just about all of that, it's also about the high quality of this game. 2 teams, 2 of the best teams in Europe, so much talent, a pitch packed full of internationals all over the park.
It is a 67,000 sellout here this afternoon. You cannot get a ticket. They have all been snapped up for this, the biggest game of the weekend, certainly in Spain and potentially across Europe as well. Let's take a look at the Real Madrid starting 11, selected by Santiago Solari to begin the game in the Wanda Metropolitano this afternoon, and give you that starting 11, which... there is some changes from the side that played against Barcelona midweek. 3 changes, in fact, to the team that featured against Barcelona in midweek, with Courtois, Reguilón and Casemiro coming into the starting 11. And this is a busy period. We've had a very busy month. It's been a busy February as well, and it's going to be a very busy time. So, understandably, we've seen lots of changes.
Yeah, no surprise there, because it is really demanding for these players. Fortunately, some of these players haven't necessarily got too many miles on the clock at the moment. You look like a young player like Vinicius Jr., who's come into the team as the season has gone on. He's really staked his place in the starting 11 in 2019, and he could start pretty much every game between now and the rest of the season, and he wouldn't get tired. A player like Lucas Vázquez, who has so much energy, feels like he can play week in, week out without any problems either. Real Madrid fortunate to have the midfield stacked full of quality. They can bring players in and out. You've got players like Dani Ceballos who can come in to get some minutes. Marcos Llorente, of course, unfortunate to pick up an injury, but he's an alternative in the midfield as well. You've got options at the back, both at centre-back and at full-back. Players like Dani Carvajal can be switched for Odriozola if needs be. You've got Reguilón competing with Marcelo for a starting spot at left-back as well. So Real Madrid, as I say, are fortunate. Well, not just fortunate, they have built this squad specifically for that, to have options, to have alternatives, to be able to bring players in and out of the team at the most demanding time of the season, which is right now.
The starting 11 with Thibaut Courtois in goal, the back 4 of Carvajal, Ramos, Varane and Reguilón, Casemiro, Modric and Kroos in midfield, and then up front Lucas Vázquez, Karim Benzema and Vinicius Jr. It is a very familiar looking trident for Real Madrid up front this afternoon. Lucas, Benzema and Vinicius have built up a really good understanding.
They complement each other really well. They do. Those 3 players. You've got Benzema with all of his on-the-field intelligence, the way that he understands the game, the way that he reads the game, the way that he links up with his teammates. Benzema, one of those classic players who makes his teammates look better with everything that he does. Then you've got the energy of Lucas Vázquez. There's been a lot of analysis this week in the build-up to this game about why Solari loves Lucas Vázquez so much and almost sees a bit of himself in Lucas Vázquez. You can see some echoes of what he was as as a player, as a Real Madrid player back in the early 2000s, and the role that Lucas Vázquez plays in this Real Madrid team. He's a coach's dream, Lucas Vázquez. Does exactly what's asked of him, as I say. So much energy, never stops running, contributes, of course, chips in with goals, as we've seen in the last week in the Cup, of course, and in terms of assists. And, well, Vinicius Junior, what else is there to say about this prodigal young wide forward, one of the most exciting young talents in world football? So much hype about Vinicius Junior, and what we've seen in the last weeks and months is that hype is entirely justified. He truly is special. We saw that in midweek at Camp Nou in the Cup again, that Vinicius Junior is not phased, whatever the surroundings, whatever the circumstances. I've been watching Vinicius all season so far. Started off commentating his games playing for Castilla, watched him now with the first team, and the really eye-catching thing about Vinicius is that whether he was playing for Castilla before or he's playing for the first team now in a Clásico at Camp Nou or in a Madrid derby at the Wanda Metropolitano, you can't really tell the difference in terms of his attitude. It's exactly the same. He treats all these games exactly the same, and that's such an important quality to have.
Vinicius starting his 11th successive game for Real Madrid, just 18 years of age, of course. He's made 20 appearances so far this season, and he's been involved in 10 goals, scoring 4 and providing 6 assists as well. He's had a real impact on this side. There is Sergio Reguilón starting his first Madrid derby at full senior level. I think he would have played quite a few Madrid derbies throughout the Real Madrid Youth Academy, because he's been a Real Madrid youth player since the under-10s, said Reguilón. It's been an extraordinary ascent to the first team for the Madrid-born left-back, and he starts his first derby this afternoon. Good to see him making his way into the starting 11. I think Real Madrid fans, certainly in Spain and indeed across the world, always warm to a homegrown player, and as we said, Sergio Reguilón has come up through the ranks, started in the under-10s, and here he is in the first team, starting his first ever Madrid derby. We're live on Facebook, we're live on YouTube, we're live on realmadrid.com and Real Madrid TV. Wherever you are joining us from around the world, you're very welcome. Live coverage here of Real Madrid's build-up to the 273rd Madrid derby. Let us know where you're watching as well in the comments section, and we'll try and read out where people are watching us from. We know that Madridistas joining us from all over the world, so tell us where you're tuning in from. That is Karim Benzema in the centre of your screen. He has been one of the crucial players for Real Madrid this season, of course, arguably Real Madrid's best player this season. I think a lot of people would make that argument. With 18 goals, he is our top goal scorer in all competitions. 10 goals in LaLiga, scored 10 of Real Madrid's 37 goals in La Liga, so 27% of Real Madrid's goals have come from Karim Benzema. That is a pretty high percentage, and it shows just how important he is to the team. Madridistas joining us from New York, from Norway, from India, from other parts of India as well, Malaysia, Canada, Mississippi, Indonesia, Amsterdam, Brazil, Texas. Lots of Madridistas joining us from all over the world here as we build up to the Madrid derby. But as we said, we were talking about some of those individual players. Karim Benzema, we've been singing his praises a lot this season on Real Madrid TV, and particularly in the last few weeks, and rightly so.
He's been a joy to watch, an absolute joy to watch, and you're right, he's come into his very best form. He's had a good season, I think, right the way through this season, but he's come into his best form at exactly the right time. Karim Benzema, so important to this Real Madrid team. You've talked about his goal scoring, we've talked about all the other things that he does aside from the goal scoring, because he is so much more than just a centre forward. Like I say, I love the balance of this Real Madrid front line with Benzema, in particular that relationship with Vinicius Junior. It's still, of course, in its early stages, that relationship. We're kind of seeing it blossom at the moment, but it already looks like they've got a really good understanding of each other's movements. So often you'll see Vinicius Junior picking the ball up and looking to cut inside as Benzema drifts out to the left, looking to play those 1-2s. We've already seen that in a number of games in the last few weeks. But Benzema is key, and he will be between now and the rest of the season. Of course, it is great news that Mariano Diaz is back from injury and available as an alternative at centre forward, and he'll have his role to play, no question, in what's left of this season. But there's no doubt that Karim Benzema is the senior man, especially in this front three with Vinicius and Lucas Vázquez. Lucas Vázquez, of course, seems forever young, but is very experience now at the top level. But Karim Benzema is the main man, and he's really been justifying that status and that position as one of the kind of understated leaders of this team out on the pitch.
Madridistas on Facebook joining us from Tanzania, from Nepal, California, Zambia, Slovenia, all over the world. As we said, you're very welcome along here to live coverage of Real Madrid's warm-up at the Estadio Wanda Metropolitano. It is a beautiful afternoon in the Spanish capital. We've had some really good weather at the start of 2019, and it is a warm afternoon for Madrid for February. It's not boiling hot, but it is very pleasant indeed in the sunshine. And as we said, this stadium is completely sold out. There is going to be a raucous atmosphere for this derby. There always is. Atletico, we should talk about our opponents this afternoon, have a very strong home record, it has to be said. They've not lost here all season in La Liga. They've only conceded 4 goals in 11 league games all season here. So Real Madrid going to have their work cut out this afternoon, trying to find spaces behind that Atletico defence.
They do have a really good home record, Atletico Madrid. One thing they don't necessarily have here at the Wanda Metropolitano so far, and of course they haven't been there all that long yet, but they haven't necessarily got a signature massive result at home against a big team. They haven't beaten Real Madrid here. They haven't beaten Barcelona here. They've had some big European games here. You'd think about beating Dortmund in the Champions League, say, or beating Arsenal in the Europa League last season. But Atletico, of course, would dearly love a result at this new stadium against one of the giants of Spanish football. And that hasn't happened yet. Now, I'm not saying that's on their minds at all. And like you say, in general, their home record is very good. Let's not forget, of course, that Atletico come into this game off the back of a defeat, being beaten by Betis last weekend. Now, like the previous game they lost in LaLiga this season, they lost their 3rd game of the season. They then went on a really impressive 18-game unbeaten run. But let's see how they respond to that Betis defeat last weekend.
Madridistas on YouTube joining us from Ghana, Croatia, Kazakhstan. Lots of people watching in Indonesia, Brazil and South Africa. Let's take a look at the Atletico Madrid starting 11 and see which 11 players Diego Pablo Simeone has selected for this afternoon's game. And of course they have Jan Oblak in goal, a back 4 of Lucas, Godin, Jimenez and Arias, Thomas and Saul in midfield, Correa and Lamar there also, with Griezmann and Alvaro Morata starting for Atletico Madrid this afternoon. So that's their starting 11. It is a strong team, despite them having some injury problems, but it's nevertheless a really strong starting 11.
And it's also a slightly more attacking 11 than perhaps we were expecting from Atletico Madrid. You've got the 2 forwards there in Griezmann and Morata, and you've got the 2 attacking wide players in Angel Correa and Thomas Lamar as well. Rodri, the young central midfielder, being left out, and some surprise about that. He's a really good young player, and he's a defensive midfielder, so leaving him out, and as I say, playing the 2 wide players and 2 proper forwards, it's an attacking looking team picked by Diego Simeone. Now, how that translates on the pitch, we'll wait and see, because we're quite used to how Atletico tend to play in these Madrid derbies. We've seen it a lot in recent years, and how they tend to operate is looking to kind of stifle the game and shut down the game and stop the flow of the game and not allow Real Madrid to play their kind of football. That's what we've tended to see under Simeone from Atletico Madrid in recent years. So let's see exactly what their approach is going to be in this game. Of course, a lot of focus on Morata, and naturally, as a former Real Madrid player, lots of attention on Antoine Griezmann as well, who without doubt is Atletico Madrid's star.
Madridistas from Pakistan, Uzbekistan, the Czech Republic, as we said, lots and lots of people in Indonesia as well, Swaziland, all over the world. Madridistas joining us for our live coverage here on Real Madrid TV of this warm-up ahead of the 273rd Madrid derby, with Real Madrid looking to record their 5th successive win in La Liga. We've been on a really strong run of form, of course. In midweek, we had the Copa del Rey Clásico against Barcelona, a strong showing at the Camp Nou, a positive result in a 2-legged tie, and of course we do have the second leg at the Bernabeu in a few weeks' time. Let's hear from the manager, let's hear from Santiago Solari. He's been speaking to Real Madrid TV's Alex Aljo, who began by asking him about how many positives there were from that Copa del Rey Clásico in midweek.
But many. It's always fantastic to achieve results before important games, and we've been achieving them in the last games, not only in the league but also in the Cup or in the Champions League. but the most important is always the sensations and how we play and how the players feel. And I see them training fantastic, all of them. Almost all of them are with the team. We have just only one injured, Marcos Llorente, which we hope to recover soon.
The Madrid derby is a fixture you know very well. I expect it will feel different coaching from the sidelines as opposed to playing in it.
Well, it's always much more fun to play it.
And over 100 days now as first-team coach, you've already won your first piece of silverware. How has the team evolved since you took over?
The heart of the player is the heart of every footballistic project, and they are putting their hearts to every training session and to every game. So as long as they do that, we're going to be fine.
So the manager, Santiago Solari, speaking, of course, speaks very good English, Santiago Solari, speaking to Real Madrid TV. They're ahead of this derby. It is a fixture he knows very well, and every time we speak to Santiago Solari and mention the fact that he used to be a player, he always alludes to the fact of how much he enjoyed being a player and how much he would still rather be a player. Obviously, he can't play in the game today because he's a little bit too old, although he's still got it, still got the skills, Santiago Solari. The next best thing, I suppose, is being a manager and being involved in a fixture like this.
I was looking at the Real Madrid's Twitter feed this morning, and the video they tweeted out to say it's match day, looking ahead to this game. It started with a brilliant goal that Santi Solari scored against Atlético Madrid, against his former team in the Madrid derby. It was a really nice goal. It reminded you what a great player he was. Of course, there's a long history and relationship between Solari and Simeone as well, two Argentinian players who played together. Simeone briefly coached Santi Solari in Argentina for a couple of months at San Lorenzo as well. Solari, as always, when you hear him speak, he is impressive, he is eloquent, he's interesting the way that he talks about football. He's always keen to kind of switch the focus off of him and look at the team and look at the players. I've got no doubt he'll have a specific game plan in mind going into this game. He'll have thought about this game a lot. And there'll maybe a bit of second guessing there between him and Simeone as well, because I say these are two friends, these are two guys who used to sit and talk about football, and so they know each other very, very well. They know how each other thinks, their psychology, and maybe that's coming into a little bit into the team selection from both coaches today, looking to kind of outguess the other one.
Presumably, the idea for Real Madrid is to try and find some space in a very, very tightly organised Atlético Madrid unit, and if you can find some space, players like Benzema, Lucas and Vinicius can cause problems, but finding space against Atlético Madrid is easier said than done. Yeah, keep an eye on Vinicius Junior. We saw his really a fascinating battle in El Clasico in midweek, him going up against Semedo. Today, of course, it's Arias who's got the pick for Atlético at right back, and there was some question marks about that, so keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on Vinicius going at him. I'm sure that the Atlético Madrid's wide midfielders, we've got them lined up as you saw earlier in a bit of a 4-4-2, but Lamar and Correa will be tasked with getting back and helping the fullbacks up against Vinicius and Lucas Vázquez, because Atlético won't want to see Vinicius Junior going one-on-one up against Arias too much. What we see sometimes from this Atlético Madrid team, we've seen it a lot in recent years, is they almost want to push you out wide, and they allow you to have the ball out wide, and they want you to put crosses into the box because they back themselves to win those aerial battles. So you might see the likes of Lucas Vázquez and Vinicius Junior being kind of ushered outside at times, and Atletico saying, well, go on, you're out wide there, put the ball into the box and let's see what you can do. So that's something to be aware of as well. But so often playing against Atletico Madrid, there just isn't any space in the middle. It's so tightly packed, the middle of the pitch there, that, as I say, they push you out wide and then invite you to put those crosses in, which isn't necessarily Real Madrid's natural game, and Real Madrid won't want to do too much of that. Yes, indeed. Madridistas joining us from Albania, from Seattle in the USA, from Afghanistan, from Kenya as well. Lots and lots in Indonesia, getting lots of messages from them as well, as we build up live here on Real Madrid TV to kick off in the 273rd Madrid derby. Just over 20 minutes to go now before the game gets underway. 3 points absolutely vital, as we said. for Real Madrid, as they are in every game, but in this particular game we are up against a direct rival in the battle for the La Liga title, and if Real Madrid win today, they leapfrog Atlético Madrid into second position. That is an important mental step as we try and claw back points and make our way to the top of the table. So, as we said, 3 points very important in every game, but when you are playing against a direct rival like Atlético Madrid are, or as they have become in recent years, it's even more important.
It was summed up really brilliantly, actually, on the front page of Marca, the biggest sports paper here in Spain today, playing with the La Liga marketing slogan, which is "It's not football, it's La Liga." The Marca front page headline today was, "It's not a derby, it's the league," meaning this is so much more than just a derby. This is potentially these two teams playing for their place in the La Liga title race. Of course, a draw wouldn't particularly suit either team. Both of them want a win, both of them desperate, of course, to avoid defeat. But both teams know here, I think Real Madrid in particular, because of the momentum they've built in the last few weeks and months under Santi Solari, Real Madrid know that if they get a win here, how huge it would be in terms of points, in terms of the La Liga table, in terms of the La Liga title race, psychologically as well. It's so much more. It's so much more than just 3 points, and it's more even than just a derby, because like you say, we've gotten used to this being one of the biggest and best derbies in the world in the last 10 years or so. But this one in particular, because of the way that the league table is when you look at it, Real Madrid knowing what 3 points would do for them in terms of that La Liga title race, it's bigger than ever. It really is.
As we know, Real Madrid were in action midweek at the Camp Nou with that 1-1 draw against Barcelona. Atletico Madrid didn't have a midweek game. They were knocked out of the Copa del Rey in the last 16, actually, by Girona, who Real Madrid then knocked out in the quarter-finals. So their last game was a 1-0 defeat away at Real Betis. They were somewhat surprisingly defeated in Seville. Prior to that, they hadn't lost for 18 games, so they'd been on a good run, but that run ended last weekend. They didn't manage to score. They didn't create too many chances either, so they don't necessarily come into this game off the back of their best result of the season.
Well, indeed, and like I was saying, the question for them is all about how they respond to that. Last time when they were beaten on match day 3, they responded really well and put together, as you rightly say, an impressive 18-game unbeaten run, even if at times within those 18 games there were perhaps 1 or 2 more draws than Simeone would have liked. So let's see how they react to getting beaten by Betis. I think sometimes these derbies, it's almost a little microclimate of itself, because of the nature of the game and because it's so special. It almost doesn't necessarily matter what the last results were, what the mood is around the team, because this derby, it becomes its own thing, and you can almost take it in isolation. There's no doubt that a really important and relevant factor, as you say, is that Atletico have had a whole week to recover, not involved in the cup. That cleared out the midweek, although of course that's something that you could have said as well before the Betis game, and then they went and got beaten by Betis. So the fact that Real Madrid were in action the midweek before this game in El Clasico, as we've been talking about, the fact they've got the game against Ajax in the Champions League, while Atletico wait until the week after, I think, to play against Juventus. Those things are important as well, but like I was saying, that's part and parcel of when you're still in the Copa del Rey, when you're in the Champions League last 16. These are things that you know that you're going to have to contend with.
Real Madrid having won their last 4 La Liga games. That's our best winning run for 11 months, coming into this game in a really positive mood after a 2-1 win at Real Betis, a 2-0 win at home to Sevilla, a 4-2 victory at Espanyol, and a 3-0 home win against Deportivo Alaves last weekend. That was the last victory for Real Madrid. Of those 4 matches, obviously that run started with a 2-1 win at Real Betis, and that victory was claimed with an 88th minute winner from Dani Ceballos. It was a really hard-fought victory, and a lot of people have suggested that kind of victory really sparked some belief, some momentum in the changing room, and we've seen that with subsequent some very good, strong, convincing performances, like that 2-0 win at home to Sevilla. They were very good away at Espanyol, and really good last week as well against Alaves. So we've seen victories, but we've also seen really strong performances as well.
It feels like the team are growing, and sometimes that's the most important thing. That's the most important thing, I think, as a fan, and probably I think that's how Solari feels as well as a coach. Is what you want to see from your team is you want to feel like they're They're heading in a direction. They've got that positive momentum, but they are improving week by week, that they're building, that they're creating an identity, an idea, a style, and that seems to be the case with Real Madrid. Like I say, you can see the progression, you can see the development from one week to another. At the moment, you can see it in the team as a whole. You can see it in the isolated cases of some of the players, in someone like Vinicius Junior, for example, in someone like Karim Benzema. You feel like the team, like I say, is improving and growing and fashioning an identity, and we're getting a real idea of what Santi Solari's Real Madrid are all about. And that is the most important thing, I think.
You get an idea, looking at the crowd, of what this derby is all about. Yes, it can be a little bit hostile as well, but there's a lot of friends and families who are Real Madrid fans and Atlético Madrid fans. There you can see two fans next to each other. It's nice, the fact that the fans are able to mix in with one another, and there doesn't tend to be any kind of trouble at all. We've actually seen that in 2 Champions League finals en masse. The fan base have headed off to 2 different cities, and there's been absolutely no trouble whatsoever. So I can't think of any other 2 cross-city rivals in the world who could do that, who could play 2 Champions League finals, have so many fans go to one city, and there'd be no problem whatsoever. So that is a credit to these 2 sets of fans, and indeed to the city of Madrid, who we've been saying is the capital of European football, the European capital of football. 2 of the biggest clubs on the continent, and we're about to enjoy the Madrid derby. Not long to go now. The players have done their final shooting practice. That's how they end their warm-up, and then we have some final little shuttle sprints before they sprint off down the tunnel to get ready for this game. A game which possibly will see few goals. They tend to be pretty tight, of course. We've seen goalless draws in the past between these 2 sides. Games decided by the odd goal as well, so we're not necessarily expecting a goal fest this afternoon.
And because it's so difficult to score against this Atlético Madrid team, because they are so defensive and so well organised, that's when you sometimes need a little bit of individual brilliance, and that's when you hope that perhaps someone like Vinicius Junior can continue the progression that he's been making in recent weeks by popping up with something spectacular. It's when you hope that someone like Luka Modric, who our cameras were focusing on just then, can pop up with something interesting. By the way, in terms of the build-up, I thought when you listen to Diego Pablo Simeone talking before this game, talking about what's the most important things about this Real Madrid team in terms of the players, he said Modric, always. It's always Modric as far as Real Madrid are concerned. And so yes, sometimes you need those players who are capable of the unexpected, of a little bit of something special, of something spectacular. You may need them to pop up with a bit of magic, because like I say, this Atlético Madrid team are so hard to score against.
So this is the big game for us. Let's take a look at some of the other games in La Liga this weekend. It is match day 23, and we've already had 2 games take place so far. On Friday night, Valladolid and Villarreal played out a 0-0 draw, which didn't help either of them much. Then Getafe have just beaten Celta Vigo by 3-1 in a big win for them, and a disappointing result for Celta Vigo. And then Atlético Madrid against Real Madrid, then Espanyol Rayo, Girona Huesca, Leganés Betis, Valencia Real Sociedad, Sevilla against Eibar, Athletic hosting Barcelona, and the Monday night game is Alaves against Levante. That's all for us here on Real Madrid TV, but make sure you join us after the match. We'll be live on Real Madrid TV and live on realmadrid.com with highlights of the game, analysis and reaction to hopefully a victory for Real Madrid. Enjoy the game. We'll see you then. Adios.